The Oskaloosa City Council to order. Today is Monday, June 6, 2022. We start with the invocation from Fellowship Bible Church.
Let's pray. Father in heaven, we come to you and just thank you for making an awesome and amazing creation. Thank you for putting us in Oskaloosa, in this part of creation, and truly am thankful, Father, that we can live here in this community. Thank you that you hear us, that you listen, and so we pray. Lord, we just pray for our students and teachers. Thank you for a good school year. And Lord, we pray for a good break for all of them, that the students and the teachers would be ready and refreshed and to get back in a few months. Just bless them. Thank you for our teachers and what they do and the work they do, and just our kids. Lord, help them to grow and to learn and just be good people and smarter people and wise and capable and good citizens. So just bless them this summer season. Lord, we thank you for Mike Fisher, and Lord, we look forward to him. Thank you that in your sovereignty and your control, Lord, it's not an accident that he's come back and served as superintendent. And so we just pray as he transitions back here, Lord, and into his job, Lord, that he would build good relationships, give him great skill and wisdom and ability to lead our school district. Just bless him and his family. We thank you for them. Lord, we also think of Pablo Gomez's family, Lord, in his death, and just pray that you would comfort his friends and his family and his co-workers, Lord, in just such a tragic accident. And so we keep them in our thoughts and prayers in a very real way today. Bless them. And we just pray for all those that are in this construction season, Lord, in the city, Oskaloosa, in the county, in the state. Pray for safety for all of them. And just thank you for them. Help them to do their jobs well, Lord, but help them to do it safely. And just thank you for this time. We thank you for our city council here. Lord, thank you for the authority that you give them. Help them to have wisdom to use it well. Just to make good decisions, right decisions that benefit us all. And again, we all pray always in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Almond. Here.
Burnett.
Here.
Caligari.
Here.
Comfort.
Here.
Dross.
Here.
Hermson.
Here.
Ocean.
Here.
First item on the agenda is the opportunity for community comments. This item is reserved to receive comments from the community for concerns whether or not they're included on the current agenda. The community is encouraged to speak before the mayor and city council. Asked to keep statements brief, time limited to no more than 3 minutes. Any questions are to be asked to the city staff, the council members, or the mayor prior to speaking to the full council. So that way concerns can be properly researched away from the meeting and answered. Comments are to be directed to the mayor and city council only. Is there anyone who would like to speak tonight? Yes, sir. Please come to the podium. Name and address, please.
My name is Howard Dittmer, and I live at 207 Evans, Logan Street, out in Evans. And I put in a bid for this house on E Avenue West for that property. And I was called and told that I was outbid and was offered my check back. But I said I'd like to speak, because I was told the city council makes the final decision on it. So I said I'd like to speak to the city council about it. I would like to preserve a little bit of Oskaloosa history, and that's why I bid on it. I want to keep it as original as possible, and I know that you guys have the final say, and it's understandable to go with the highest bidder, but I just wanted you to know that I personally would like to preserve it, a little of Oskaloosa's history as much as possible.
Okay. There will be the opportunity. I think this is item A on our regular agenda.
Okay.
And so when we do that public hearing, the nice thing about that is the time limit goes off. So if you want to talk for 10 or 15 minutes, you can do that.
Well, I think I've said what I
Okay.
The rest is up to you guys.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else care to speak tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on the agenda. Next item up is the consent agenda. These are items that are considered routine in nature. We'll act on them as a single motion. There wasn't anything in particular I felt the need to call out. Do we have a motion of support for the consent agenda?
Moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Hermson?
Yes.
Ocean?
Yes.
Almond?
Yes.
Burnett?
Yes.
Calgery?
Yes.
Comfort?
Yes.
Dross?
Yes. Okay, that passes. Getting into the regular agenda, I guess before I do that, the announcement of vacancies we have on the various boards and commissions. First is the Airport Commission. We have one vacancy for a term ending in December of 2027. The Board of Adjustment, there's a vacancy for a term ending in December of 2026. The Building Code Board of Appeals, one vacancy for a regular member and also for an ex officio member. The Civil Service Commission has one vacancy. It's for a term ending in May of 2026. Historical Preservation Commission has one vacancy, and that's for a term ending in December of 2023. And the Water Board of Trustees, there are two vacancies, terms beginning in July of 2022. Getting into the regular agenda, first up is to consider a resolution accepting the bid and approving conveyance of a city-owned property generally located at 901 E Avenue West to JCAT, spelled J-K-A-T, Integrity Team LLC for $11,250 in accordance with the council direction and the City of Oskaloosa's policy on disposition of real property. City received 4 sealed bids for real property located at the 900 block of E Avenue West. The minimum bid price of $1,000. Bids were opened on Friday, May 20th of 2022, and there's a summary that is in the council's packet. As mentioned in the description, JCAT was the highest bid for $11,250. This does require an open public hearing, and so I would like to open the public hearing at this time if there was anyone that would like to speak to it or speak to it again. Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. To get us started with the conversation, do we have a motion of support for accepting the highest bid?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Discussion.
May I ask, you say you want to maintain the historical presence, and what are those buildings? What were they?
I have looked for the history on it, and I have not been able to find anything. I'm not that computer savvy to where I can really search for it. I have been told that at one time it was the Oskaloosa egg plant.
That's what I thought it was too. That's what I thought I'd heard.
But I can't verify that.
So when you say that you wanted to just, Dave, you know?
I've heard it described as the old hatchery.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
it does have that look.
So you say that I'm just curious, in your mind, you say, well, I want to restore history, or keep history, maintain history. What do you do if you were to have gotten the high bid? What does that mean to you?
Basically the look of the building.
Yeah.
Not bring it back into.
What would you done with them? Obviously, they need new roofs. Part of it's laying on the ground there.
I was planning to take it down, take out all the way down to the or even taking the rafters off.
Yeah.
And put a slight pitch metal roof on it.
Gotcha. And then do what with them?
And then, well, the west building would be residential, or would be single-family dwelling. And the east building would just be garage and personal hobby shop.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Yes. You're welcome.
It's hard to tell from the photos. Are these concrete?
Yeah,
Block.
Cement block?
Mhm.
Do you know what year approximately? I mean,
I had heard like 1940s that it was built.
okay. Which would be the heyday of hatcheries.
I think it's interesting if you read through the proposals for each bid, which I'm kind of impressed we got 4 bids on this because you don't normally see that. But two of the four, only one of them said, I will tear this down.
Well,
The rest of them said, I mean, it looked like the general consensus was that they were going to
Oh,
try
yeah.
to rehab them and turn them into duplexes or dwellings.
Well, the one said remodel or convert or
Mhm.
demolish.
Yeah, so we aren't really sure about the higher bid.
So once we accept this, do we put some sort of condition on, they've got to do what they say they're going to do within a certain period of
Isn't
time?
it
We
a
usually do,
year?
don't we?
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
Mm.
okay.
Yep.
And
Yep.
submit prints.
Yep, I think,
So this is the highest one?
yeah, they would have 180 days to get the building permit and then 1 year to complete the work. And we reserve the right to take it back if they don't perform.
Okay. So we have a motion to accept the higher bid. Any further comments?
So I had one, I'm just trying to figure out, I don't know if it's a typo. He said, or scrape and build new duplexes, or did he mean scrap? Okay.
It says it was built in 1947.
1947. Because the highest bid says to describe your plan. It says remodel to a duplex or scrape and build new duplex. And they forgot an E there. Or does he mean scrap and build new?
I think.
Well,
Probably
there
demolition.
Demolition.
is scrap.
Mm-hmm.
Because scrape
Scrape
is
the-
take down to the studs and is would be how I interpret it.
Or scrape the site.
Scrape the site.
Could be
It all
demolition.
depends what school you went to.
Yeah.
It needed a few E's or. Okay, because that could be interpreted differently. So when you said on which bid we accept.
So the motion is to accept the $11,250 bid for the property. If there's no further comments, roll call, please.
Ocean,
No.
Almond,
Yes.
Burnett,
No.
Caligari,
Yes.
Comfort,
Yes.
Drost,
Yes.
Hermson,
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Moving on to item B. Is to consider a resolution accepting the bid and approving conveyance of city-owned property located at 209 North 8th Street. This would be to Alan and Justine Munger for a bid of $5,000. In accordance with the council direction and the city of Oskaloosa's policy on disposition of real property, the city received one sealed bid for the real property at 209 North 8th Street. Minimum bid price was $1,000. Bid was opened on Friday, May 20th of 2022. And so the neighbors, Alan and Justine Munger, submitted the only responsible bid in the amount of $5,000, and there was a bid security deposit that went with that. There is a public hearing required for this, and so I'll open the floor to a public hearing. And is there anyone who would care to speak to this? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion of support for the bid of $5,000?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
This can be, for what they want to do, they can do this, right? They can put a two-car garage and put a residence above it. It's all good?
Yeah, great question. That's a
Yeah.
good zoning question. It may need to stay a separate lot, so the question would be is if they can have 2 dwelling units on 1 lot.
Okay.
But yes, I think they can
Okay.
do what they
Right.
plan to do.
Awesome. All right, good. Thanks.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Almond,
Yes.
Burnett,
Yes.
Caligari,
Yes.
Comfort,
Yes.
Drost,
Yes.
Hermson,
Yes.
Ocean,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Gets us to item C. This is to consider a resolution adopting the proposal for fiscal year 2023 property, liability, automobile, equipment, and workers' comp insurance for a cost of $275,595. Margaret, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council, and welcome to the new council members. You've already had an opportunity to review my presentation and Amy's recap of the premium changes. So now I'd like to share some good news, touch on some coverage highlights, and then answer some questions that you may have. The city of Oskaloosa was actually positioned very well to deal with the impact that increased construction costs have had on building values, rates, and premiums. First of all, you have a very excellent loss history. You've only had one property loss in the last 5 years, the golf course building in 2018. And so that has resulted in two very important benefits. Number one, it has kept you in the lowest tier of rates with the EMC Safety Group program. Number two, is we were not asked to increase your deductibles to a percentage or to a per building deductible that we've seen as high as $75,000 per building in another community that we work with in this program. On the work comp, City administration's focus on the importance of ongoing safety training has resulted in additional credits for good loss experience, and you now have a 33% discount, up from 28% last year. That discount is in addition to the improvement in your experience modification factor from 0.99 to 0.90. So even though we saw an increase this year, please be assured that it could have been much worse. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay. So one of our main responsibilities as an independent insurance agency is to make sure that you have the most appropriate coverage at an appropriate cost. Now we can accomplish that by moving you to a different carrier, because we write for many, or by making changes within the program that you currently have. For the benefit of the new council members, we made such a move from Cincinnati Insurance to the EMC Safety Group in 2017. After 4 years of tremendous risk management efforts on the part of city administration, Amy Miller, to minimize losses by creating, implementing, and documenting safety programs and training. I cannot tell you how important that was for that transition to happen. We knew from having other communities in the EMC program that it afforded broader coverage with better rates and a nice dividend program. It's been an excellent fit, and it has paid off tremendously for the city of Oskaloosa. The first year premium savings in 2017 was $49,367, and we felt that was worth the move, in addition to a dividend program that a total of $43,478 has been received. It was paid out in 2019, 20, 21. In 22, we didn't get a dividend because of the derecho. So there's a year's delay in them figuring the profit sharing on those. But I found out this morning, 2023 is going to have a dividend. We don't know how much yet, but there will be a dividend. So that was good news. So besides EMC in Cincinnati, ICAP, the Iowa Communities Assurance Pool, is a self-insured program that we have a couple communities insured with, and it's the other main carrier in the state of Iowa. So carrier choice is a part of the discussions that we have each year with city administration, and because we have ICAP in a couple other communities, we can stay current in how their rate increases compare to EMC's. Like most carriers, they've also had to have substantial increases in the last couple years, some as high as 35%. But they are a very viable option if something should go south with the EMC program, or if there's enough premium savings that would justify the move, but at this time there isn't. Any questions so far? All right. So let's take a look at the presentation. Page 1 is what Amy summarized so very nicely, and it recommends our changes in red, which we felt were the best methods to help mitigate the premium increases that were triggered by increased building values and rates and a change in the cyber coverage due to exposure. Amy summarized those premium changes very well, and there are options listed at the bottom of the first page if you should decide to decline what we're proposing. We wanted you to have those numbers in front of you. Our first recommendation was to increase the per occurrence property deductible from $5,000 to $10,000, which results in a premium saving of nearly $4,000 per year. So that very nicely justifies that change. It just makes sense. Again, you just had one property loss in the last 5 years from that golf course building, so you've done very well on the property side. Not that you can control hail or wind, but nice job. Our second recommendation involved the Inland Marine Scheduled Equipment Floater. That coverage is for items that move around, and it included nearly $4 million worth of equipment for streets, police, fire, and all the different departments. Because EMC offers $250,000 of coverage for property off premises, our recommendation was to move the smaller items back to blanket contents category with a premium savings of $5,400 per year. Okay. It has a lower rate on the blanket contents coverage, and we spent a lot of time going through all of the different schedules, and we're able to come up with that. The third major change in coverage recommendation involves the cyber liability coverage. This was incrementally increased last year. The coverage was from $50,000 to $250,000, but we live in an electronic world, and the exposure warrants $1 million in coverage. You can buy more coverage if you want. You can spend great wads of money on it, but $1 million is what we're seeing the standard as right now. One of the most valuable items this coverage provides is immediate access to forensic experts who can take over with the first phone call, providing staff guidance on what to do, what not to do, and to assist in the recovery of lost data and systems. Now, this is a group policy with a renewal date of April 1. And so we have a bit of a double whammy this year in the premium impact, as we'd pay the prorated amount between now to April 1, and then in April 1 you'd have the annual premium. So we included it all in there. That's why there was a 400 and some thousand, or 400 and some % increase. That summarizes our recommendations. The other premium fluctuations are based on revenues, population count, and rates. Does anybody have any questions on those recommendations? Yeah.
The last one, reject terrorism coverage? What
Yes.
does that mean?
Yes. So after 9/11, the government asked insurance companies to participate in terrorism coverage, and then they would also participate. In order for that coverage to be triggered, there has to be over $100 million worth of damage on this location. It has to be categorized as a certified terrorism incident, and there are very few entities that actually pay that premium because the Boston Marathon bombing was not categorized as a terrorism event.
So a random shooter would not qualify as...
No, it wouldn't. It
We'd be
requires...
covered in other ways. Okay.
Yeah, it requires millions, over $100 million in property damage coverage.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah. Any other questions or
The,
comments?
the cyber coverage,
Yeah.
I know you just referenced this, that, it shows 486% difference, but really it goes from 2,200 to 7,300 for a year, right?
Right.
I mean, not.
Right. That was just the impact for
About-
this year.
right.
Yeah, what it was going to
Just
do to
because,
your budget.
just because of the timing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you said this would be starting...
It would start right away. It would
Right,
start
right,
July
right.
1, and then the policy renews in April.
Yeah,
So
which
that's
is very
the little...
good. I had that on my homeowners. It was worth every penny.
Yeah.
On the cyber, is there anything we can do to help reduce that? Like internal training on anything, or?
That's a very good point, and there are some resources that will be available for the city to use for those purposes.
Just don't open up that email.
Yeah, that is, yeah.
Well, last year, after we approved, last year, we went from the 50,000 to the 250,000, and then a couple weeks later, we did attend some training, and the training said, you need to be at that $1 million mark. So, it seems like we always talk about things for a couple of years before we make the actual change. So
I
we've
wondered
been
that.
working towards this, and this, it was a no-brainer.
Very smart.
So with this level of coverage, does the, I'm assuming this is through EMC.
It's through the IAMU program through that, yes.
Okay.
It is.
So then, do they do anything as far as loss prevention, like penetration testing or any other kinds of things to actively say, hey, here's where your weaknesses are at and here's where you want to make your changes?
That's available. That's available. Now, some of it comes with a fee, which,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking is if we were to go to a consulting firm, it would be very expensive. But
Yeah.
if we do it under the umbrella of the insurance company, maybe there's some sort of affordability.
Yeah, there are, and I'll provide Amy with that information. And something that I'll mention since we're talking about the cyber liability is that they have an app that can be put on select people's phones. So if something happens, you have it on your phone because you're probably not going to be able to find your cheat sheet on the computer because your computer is shut down. And, we went from the 3-ring binders to saving it online. Well, all of a sudden your computer's locked up, so you can't get to what you need online. So there's an app on your phone that gives you immediate access to their response team.
I use sticky notes.
It's
Under the desk.
Yeah,
Yep.
right where you keep your
That's
passwords.
right.
Yep, put your password right under the keyboard.
I got a drawer of sticky notes here.
Yeah, you gotta have backups.
Yep. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions on any of that? There is, within your presentation, I'm sure you saw the comparison of of the cyber coverage to the EMC program that we had, you know, and it's a very, we feel it's a much more robust program and a lot broader coverage and obviously a higher level of coverage. Also shown on this first page, and yes, we're not going to spend this much time on every single page, I promise you, but on the first page, the tremendous savings on the work comp policy are reflected due to a drop in the experience modification factor and those additional credits. Then the IMWCA third-party claims administration for police and fire and the company nurse is shown on there. And I believe that that has been a beneficial program this year. It allows them to call the company nurse to decide who needs to go to ER and who doesn't, and then they actually manage the payment of those claims. So Amy indicated that she wanted to continue that again this year. Then there's a builder's risk policy listed for the Early Childhood Education and Recreational Center. We'll see what things look like in October, and we can either extend the policy or we can add a completed building to the policy, to the EMC policy, whatever route it goes. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that that is coming up in October. Okay?
And Amy, that's where the difference between Margaret's proposal and what we had budgeted is assuming, I mean, it's about 30,000. That's for the rec center, right?
Because we budgeted 10% increase, fingers crossed for the reduction in work comp. But when I think we received an email from EMC probably in December or January, projecting we'd have 11% increase. So yeah, so that's the difference, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So now I'd like to move on to a few highlights of the coverages that I would like for you to really be aware of. On the property section on the next page, in addition to the increase in building material costs, the loss that happened at the Marshall County Courthouse in the July 19th of 2018 tornado brought to light the impact that historical value has on the cost to repair a building. And it is tremendous. So in order to address this historical value of structures, EMC sent an appraiser out to complete a specific detailed appraisal of buildings categorized as historical structures. For Oskaloosa, it's the City Hall Fire Station and the library. So the appraiser was on site May 9th, and his report is still in progress. Now, we've made some substantial increases in the meantime, but I have to give a shout out to Mike Calzaretti. This appraiser goes all over the state. In fact, he goes to adjoining states, and he said he has never seen anyone more prepared than Mike, or anyone that loved their building more than Mike. I mean, it was amazing. I spent the morning with them because I updated our own replacement cost estimator, and he knew where everything was at. He had all the documents available. He knew where to find information within the documents. He's a gem. So we did increase the coverages on the City Hall and Fire Station from $5.8 million to just over $7.2 million, just as a stopgap measure, and we increased the library from $4.2 million to just over $7.3 million. That's just taking into account the structural costs. I don't know what the historical value difference is going to be. A little bit frightened about it. Well, we'll see what they say.
Well, it's got a great HVAC system in it, so we're proud of that.
Well, and I maxed everything out, you know, I mean, yeah. But, okay. So, EMC agreed to keep them on the blanket, but what I wanted to make you guys aware of tonight is that they do have a 130% margin clause on it. And what that means is, on the blanket policy, you can access the total value of the entire blanket for an individual building that gets damaged. These can only go to a maximum of 130% of those values I just listed for you. So the maximum coverage on City Hall is 9.4 and the maximum in the library is 9.5. Until we get that new appraisal in, then they'll adjust the values if needed and they'll remove that margin clause. Because we need those buildings to have the entire blanket available, like Courthouse in Marshalltown needed it. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. Yeah, Lisa.
Well, I have a historic home too, and so we've gone through that.
Yeah.
Because the replacement cost is like 4 times what the selling cost.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there is, so they would replace certain kinds of details,
Yes, it
of brick and wood
Yeah.
and that,
Yeah.
you know.
Marshalltown, it was the copper on the
Right.
outside of the cupola.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that building wasn't even destroyed. The cupola just toppled down and poked a couple holes in the roof. So it's there's huge value.
Yeah,
And we
it's
want it to be able to be replaced like it is.
like it is, yes.
And I didn't know that there's a circular concrete wall in the front of the library. Who knew? Okay, all right.
Hey, Margaret, questions, we're looking at the values of the buildings and
Yeah.
such. I noticed the wooden playground, this probably has no impact overall, but it shows wooden playground at almost 300,000. The wooden playground doesn't exist anymore.
Yep.
Does that need to be removed?
Yeah, we can pull that off
Thank
of
you.
there. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
You just happen to come across it.
Yeah, and they did incrementally increase the other building values too this year. It wasn't just the historical values. Another thing that I want to point out to you in the property section is about a third of the way down, you'll see ordinance or law. It's right above where it says crime. Now, this is a unique thing with EMC, but under ordinance and law coverage, there's three parts to it. There's the value of the undamaged portion of the building. So if your front of your building burns and the back of your building is saved by our good fire department, all of a sudden you have half of a building that the value is impacted because the front of it has been burned. So it has to be demolished. And so then it covers the demolition costs of that undamaged portion of the building. And the most important part is the increased cost of construction due to updated codes. Now, we could talk about wastewater treatment plants, and in fact, that was a specific conversation we had with EMC when we moved in 2017. Because I said, that was when, you were in the midst of we have all these changes in codes that we're going to have to update these buildings. And so I said, all right, tornado hits them, will you build them according to these new codes? Yes, they will. And of course, they increased the values on those buildings right away. But it would. And that's
11.7.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
19 million. 19 million doesn't rebuild those, Margaret.
I know. But it was a lot lower than that before that. Well, to keep it in perspective, I think when we moved from Cincinnati to EMC, the entire blanket was maybe 17 million in coverage. And so we've got a bit more coverage now. But if your wastewater treatment plant is hit by a tornado, and don't be praying for tornadoes, it would rebuild it according to the new code. And that's a good example, I think, of what that ordinance and law coverage stands for and what it provides for the community.
So just for clarification, I mean, there's $19 million of value between the northeast and southwest plants in here.
Yeah.
We just had a study session about a month ago that said it was $70 million. Are you saying that if a tornado comes through, because we have the code and ordinances coverage, that they would pay for a $70 million?
It'll go up to the policy limit, so whatever your blanket, total policy blanket limit is, and depending on how many other buildings are damaged too.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where it pulls from the other building values.
Yeah, it's a nice start.
Do not be praying for tornadoes.
I'm not.
But it's,
We'd still have to pay for the other half.
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Okay, so to keep moving on, the bottom section of that page shows the inland marine. We've already talked about that. That reflects the changes made by moving those items to the blanket business personal property. Next page, we can go to general liability. This is pretty straightforward. Something that is unique to EMC on the general liability is that their limits of liability, the $2,000 per occurrence and $4,000 aggregate per year, is per location per year. So the reality is that you could have, theoretically, you could have $2 million losses at each location per year. That's something that the other carriers don't offer. We don't ever want it to be used, but it's something that's unique, and so I just wanted to point that out. Then the cyber and data compromise. And we could spend a lot of time going through each one of those. If anybody has any specific questions, I will certainly try to answer them. I think I would just simply say again that one of the greatest benefits is the access to their experts and the increased limit of coverage and the broader coverage. Okay? All right. Automobile coverage, a unique thing about EMC is that they provide replacement cost on your fire trucks up to the purchase price if they're under 20 years old. So just something I wanted to point out. You did replace you added 5 vehicles last year and traded in 2, and so of course the premiums went up. The next section, work comp. On the right-hand side, I provided a history of your experience, Maud, so you could see, we're glad that the coverage is there in case someone gets hurt, but it has a real big impact on your premiums whenever those claims stay on for 3 years and then roll off. And so you have a really, really good history on that. Next, we get into the liability section. It's pretty straightforward. We have the umbrella, then the law enforcement liability, public officials liability, and employment practices liability. Something that I would note is that defense expenses are outside of the policy limit, and that's where you see a lot of the monies paid out, is on paying for the defense. So that's outside the policy limit, so that retains the policy limit for any awards that have to be paid. So you have the underlying $2 million, and then you have a $4 million umbrella on top of it. Okay? Something else that I might mention is that it does include civil rights coverage. And civil rights coverage under law enforcement, they could get charged with wrongful seizure, wrongful search, things like that. For public officials, you could be vulnerable to being charged with discrimination, things like that would come under the civil rights coverage. Otherwise, unless you have any questions, I'll stop, although I could go on quite a while. Dave, you have a question?
Yeah, can you tell me more about the defense expense outside public limit, or excuse me, outside the policy limit for law enforcement liability, public official liability, and employment practices liability?
Yep.
So if there were a claim made where, so-and-so done wrong, then who pays for attorneys and...
The insurance company does.
Okay.
But it's paid
Oh, it's outside of the limit. Got it.
Yes, it's outside
Okay.
of the limit. I'm so sorry, I didn't explain that right.
How does that mean?
That means that
That's a good question.
you're not limited on how much they're going to pay for the attorney fees. They're going to pay those attorney fees beyond and above. They're going to retain this $2 million in case you have to pay an award. But they'll pay those defense, it's a big deal. They pay those defense
So if
costs.
the attorney fees are $4 billion,
Yeah,
okay.
they'll pay them.
Yep.
We get it, okay.
And now, in the event of a, so tucked in there is also the consent to settle.
Yeah, it is.
So it says not included.
Right.
So in other words, if the insurance company comes to a settlement offer or a settlement of some sort, we still have the ability to say, no, we don't think so?
You don't have that ability.
Okay.
You can purchase that ability. It's nothing that Great Wads of Money can't buy. But the way it stands right now, that's not insurance wording.
Sounded good. It should be.
So without this endorsed onto the policy, if the city refuses to settle and you elect to continue legal proceedings, the insurance company will pay up to 70% of the amount awarded above what they originally offered to settle, not exceeding the policy limit, of course. And the city would be responsible for 30% of that settlement, okay? In addition, the insurance company would pay 70% of the defense costs, and the city would be responsible for 30% of that amount after the date of your refusal to settle.
Okay.
So,
So if we're in that position, you'll explain the numbers then.
yeah.
know.
I mean, you don't
everyone
have the
either.
consent to settle because, I mean, you can purchase it,
Mm-hmm.
but generally speaking, it's relatively expensive and
Okay.
rarely used.
Yep.
And you would hope that one would have been through the negotiations and have been able to manage things up to that point. But I will say that there have been situations where if someone is accused of something and the city wants to take a stand and say, we are not going to settle because we feel like we can take this to trial and we can prove that this person is innocent, it's your call.
You're getting.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? I would offer especially for the new members, if, I know Amy's going to say really, if you're interested in learning more about the insurance program of the city, I would meet with you individually and I would go through the whole thing line by line.
So Margaret, I've been waiting to say this. I think that you and Flo could go head to head in enthusiasm for insurance. So, oh my God! So,
I'm not sure how to take that.
it's meant as a compliment.
Thank you.
I'll second that because I met you the first week I started at my new job. I'll second that. I was like, you're the most optimistic person I met that whole week.
I have the best job in the world, you know, and it's been, we really appreciate the long-term relationship that we've had with the city. It's been many, many years, and to watch Amy go through what she did to help move that from Cincinnati to EMC was lost control, kept shaking their head, and of course we kept going back to EMC, submitting it year after year, and they'd say, well, you need to do this, and she did it. You know, you need a safety committee, and it happened. You need this training, and it happened. And the documentation was there, and the employees bought in, and then you have people that, like Mike Halsready, that reflect the enthusiasm that your employees have. So congratulations.
Okay, very good.
All right. Thank you very,
Thank
very
you,
much.
Margaret.
Meyer.
You bet.
So staff is recommending a review and approval of the coverages as recommended by Ratcliffe and Blake. Do we have a motion of support?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Burnett,
Yes.
Calgery,
Yes.
Comfort,
Yes.
Drost,
Yes.
Hermson,
Yes.
Ocean,
Yes.
Almond,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Getting on to item D. This is to consider a resolution accepting completion of Division 2 of the Phase 3 Sanitary Sewer System Improvements Project. The contractor is Visu Sewer. They requested the city accept completion of the Division 2 Sanitary 3 project. Primary focus of this was to complete cured in place pipe, CIPP, lining an existing sanitary sewer main in various locations throughout the city. Options 1, 2, and 3 of the project were previously accepted as complete back in May. So this item is to accept the remaining work, excluding the 3 locations that were not completed due to unforeseen conditions in the pipes. And so those are listed out in our packet. It's been inspected by staff and by Garden and Associates, found to be acceptable. Final contract amount for the project, $2,021,247.02. It's a net decrease of $574,956.93 from the original contract amount, which was $2,596,203.95. Change order 5 included with the item represents a reduction in the amount of $321,661.93 due to the final quantity adjustments and the uninstalled materials. So with approval, the project will be accepted as complete, and so that authorizes the release of the remaining contract amount and retainage in the amount of $30,743.58 to the contractor 30 days after project acceptance if there are no claims that are filed against the project. So the list of expenses is in our packet. Do we have a motion of support for approving the resolution to accept the completion of this?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Calgery,
Yes.
Comfort,
Yes.
Drost,
Yes.
Hermson,
Yes.
Ocean,
Yes.
Almond,
Yes.
Burnett,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Gets us to item E, and this is to consider a resolution approving additional revisions to the Mahaska County Solid Waste Management Commission 28E agreement, and a follow-up to our March 27 of 2022 resolution that accepted the changes at that time to the 28E agreement. There have been some additional revisions recommended by the commission. The revisions are noted in the attached red line document that's in your packet, reflecting changes to the sections Article 4, 5, Article 7, 9, and 10. And so that's included in the packet. I'm on the commission, as is Rhonda, and I think I'll go ahead and speak for Rhonda. I didn't think you had any objections to the changes, and I have been going at this now for a little over 2 years. So I don't have any objections or energy left. So, so anyway, is there a motion of support for this revision?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
First.
Any discussion?
Oh. Have it.
Please. All right. Roll call, please.
Comfort?
Yes.
Dross?
Yes.
Hermson?
Yes.
Ocean?
Yes.
Almond?
Yes.
Burnett?
Yes.
Calgery?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Okay, report on items from city staff, city manager, city clerk, anything?
I just wanted to let everybody know that the budget book has been put together and it is out on the city's website. So if anybody wants to see that, it includes, a letter about our study session and what was approved, includes debt, includes CIP, and then of course revenue and expense. So, that can be found on the city's website under the finance, portion of our website.
Okay, thank you. City attorney, anything?
Nothing, thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Moving on to city council members, Steve,
No, sir.
Rhonda,
We have a new landfill. As the mayor said, we are on the solid waste management. We hired a gentleman, I'm not sure his exact start date, great pick, and should move the process from Mike retiring him. He's been closely underneath Mike for a couple of years, I guess, and helping out, so it should be a great transition for the commission.
Bob,
No, sir, thank you.
okay, Janet,
This weekend is Art on the Square, so if you have time, get out and see all the artists, and then also the murals that are being painted around the square. So enjoy those.
looking forward to that. Charlie,
Nothing.
okay, Joe,
Nope, nothing.
Lisa,
And I would add about Art on the Square, we're doing the cardboard version of Oskaloosa. So I've got two young, enthusiastic book readers designing the cardboard version of the book vault. So, so do come see that. It's going to be something.
tell me more about that. As far as assembly of that, when will that take place? Will it be on Saturday?
No, they're doing it right now.
Okay.
It should be on our Facebook page.
Okay.
And that, and so then the pickup comes and picks it up from their house and takes it to the mall, right?
Five-star title, I think, is in charge of running that event, and I think Thursday night it will be in the mall.
Okay.
Thursday or Friday, I think it's going to be up. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of. I thought when in the science fair, it should be the kids, not my employees that I coerced. So.
Okay.
But it looks really fun. There's some budding engineers. So.
I'm volunteering for the raffle on Saturday from 1 to 4 if anybody wants to come out and buy some raffle tickets to the Art on the Square. You can come see me, talk to me.
Rotary tables up. We got lights. We got.
And I'll be there before Rhonda, so you can buy from me if you're
There you go.
Okay. Okay, that it?
Yep.
Okay, I didn't have anything to add. So, next item after this is going to be to go into closed session. And so this is to consider holding a closed session under Iowa Code Section 21.5.1.I to evaluate the professional competency of an individual whose appointment, hiring, performance, or discharge is being considered when necessary to prevent needless and irreparable injury to that individual's reputation, and that individual has requested a closed session. So do we have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, too, just to reiterate, of course, Amy would need to request that we go into closed session.
Yes, I have and I've signed for it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Got a motion and a second on closed session. Roll call, please.
Dross?
Yes.
Hermson?
Yes.
Ocean?
Yes.
Almond?
Yes.
Burnett?
Yes.
Calgery?
Yes.
Comfort?
Yes.
Okay, that passes, so we'll go into closed session at this time and dismiss the audience. Okay, we are back in open session. We've had a personnel review of City Clerk Finance Director Amy Miller. Do we have anyone who would like to make a motion at this time?
I'd make a motion to increase the salary of Amy Miller as our City Clerk Finance Director to a salary of $100,000 effective July 1st.
Okay,
Second.
got a second from Bob. Okay, any discussion? I should note that this follows a favorable job evaluation that was done by the full council.
And quite frankly, the salary is the median salary that we've seen across the state, so we feel like we're being judicious in the salary we're offering. So.
Right. Yeah,
Very good.
it's lower than 3 others who are
Yeah.
listed with comparable. So I still go on record with 110, but
Yeah.
would still be in the lower realm.
Okay. No further comments? Roll call, please.
Ocean?
Yes.
Almond?
Yes.
Burnett?
Yes.
Calgery?
Yes.
Comfort?
Yes.
Dross?
Yes.
Hermson?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. That is the end of the business that we have on our agenda for tonight. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.